Hello everybody, welcome. It's Monday and we are digging into Esther chapter 1 a little bit more. I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I didn't really explore as much as I would have liked to yesterday. One of the questions that comes out of Esther 1 is, what do we do with the role of Vashti, and I guess more broadly, what does that mean for the role of women and men? And there's lots of comment around that in some commentaries. I didn't go there yesterday as I was speaking because I felt that the other points that I wanted to make were where I primarily wanted to be. I guess also there is a sense in which I guess the issue for the author of Esther is that God's people are at stake, and that is what he is mostly writing. One commentator puts it like this: for the author of Esther, the issue of the dignity and position of women in the Persian court paled in contrast to the pressing threat of death for an entire race of people who were God's covenant people at that. The threat against the Jews of Persia was a threat against God's plan of redemption. And so I think that is the primary thing that is in view in the book of Esther. But it's worth doing a little bit of digging with the issue of dignity for women. And what we see in the book of Esther is that the narrator, the author of Esther, doesn't comment much at all on the motives of any of the characters involved, whether it's Vashti or Xerxes, even Esther or Mordecai, or even Haman. There is very little comment on their motives and why they do what they do. And this commentator says, this unusual silence creates an ambiguity that cannot be ignored. It can only be fixed by filling in motives and evaluations that are simply not in the text. And so that's one of the things for us as we look at Esther, is that, when we're not told, the author is merely commenting on the action, and we need to keep that in mind. But there was this comment as well. This passage is the first of many in which the author refrains from making any moral or ethical evaluation. He does not fault the king for drinking, nor does he commend or condemn Vashti for refusing to appear at the king's command. And the episode between Vashti and Xerxes paints a picture of life in the Persian court that provides a context in which the later events of the story are to be understood. And we see there the king holds tremendous power, and he uses it to reinforce his own glory, and the reader begins to see a glimpse of what life under the Persian king was like. And I guess that is worth us considering. While we look at the actions of Xerxes and Vashti, and perhaps we ask, should we be treating people this way? Should Vashti have come or not come when the king called? Well, they're not part of God's people, and so we don't have that comparison place. But aside from that, it's fine to ask those questions and to think through those questions. And when we come into chapter 2, those questions become a little more pronounced for us because we're evaluating Esther and her behaviour there. So I hope that gets you thinking. I also, wanted to just commend to you this thought of God's providence in Esther. And I guess as I started reading through Esther, a comment that really grabbed me was this one. Even though we cannot see God acting, it does not follow that he is not doing anything. God's work is not all slam bang action. Sometimes it is a quiet faithfulness to his promises in the seemingly ordinary providences of life, bringing about in the hearts of his people what he has purposed. And I guess that's my prayer for you as we go through Esther, is that you will begin to see more of that, and that will encourage you and help you. But we also need to bear in mind this thing. None of these events would have seemed significant to the Jewish community in Susa at the time. A changing queen? Who cares what those pagans are doing? What has that got to do with the price of fish in the market or with my following Jesus? And that will be the way we view the world sometimes. But actually Esther invites us to look a bit more deeply and ask ourselves, well, what might God be doing here? And how might I join in with that? All the best for this coming week. As you read Esther, I want to encourage you in that. And I hope the journey through Esther is a good one for you, and God really helps you and encourages you and grows you in it. Thank you.